the performance of our local teams. Specifically, I want to talk about my Mets. So the Mets are an interesting bunch. They've had an interesting year with a lot of ups and probably as many downs as anything else, right? Um, it's been let's just say difficult. um, the thing that you like if you're a Met fan, you like the fact that in the wake of Cohen's press conference, they responded. Um, and they really have played a lot better since then. Um, there's an article in Bleacher Report. I'm going to pull this up real quick because I meant to look this up before I headed on the air, and I forgot. Um, so this was June 27th. It's dated. So, and he held that press conference that Wednesday. So, what day of the week was that? The 27th was Tuesday. So since that press conference, that's what I wanted to look up what their record is because they had that 5-game sweep in there, which was awesome and completely unexpected. And it feels like they are finally playing up to their capabilities, at least a little bit. Scherzer has been better. Verlander's been better. Lindor has been excellent. They're now 6 games under 500, which is not good. Um, but they had that 5-game sweep. They won. Let's just take a look here real quick. We're gonna pull this up right now. Here we are. All right. So over their last since that date, so we're gonna say since the 27th, the date of Cohen's press conference, the Mets have gone to what is that? Oh, I'm going the wrong direction. That explains it. All right. So since the 27th, they've gone. Uh, that's April 27th. No wonder. Where are we? If I could read. All right. So since the 27th, they've gone. I said 1-3, and then they had the 5-game 1, 2, 3, 4. No, a 6-game winning streak. So they have 7-3, and now they're 7-5. So they're 7-5 since then, which isn't great. It's not tremendous, but it is pretty good, right? It's not too bad. And as a fan of the team, the most important thing is they are now again within striking distance of a wild card. I don't think they're catching Atlanta. I'm just going to go out on the limb and say that. I don't think they're going to catch Atlanta. I really don't. Atlanta's too good. And what are they? They're back how many games? The last I looked, it was like 10. So it's 8.5. No, it's 18.5. Excuse me. Marlins are 8.5. The Marlins are in second place. It's crazy. And they're going to have a winning season, most likely. They're a full 14 games over 500 right now, the Miami Marlins, if you can believe that. I know that's insane. But that's where we stand with things. But here's the trouble I have with the Mets. They are buried in that division. Buried. 18.5 back. They're not catching up. I'm sure of that. But they might have a chance in the wild card. In the wild card, they are 7 back, which is still fairly significant. That's not nothing. But you have a good chunk of the season left. What have you played? About 100 games right now, I suppose. So 90 games they've played to this point. So they have 70 something games left, 72 games left, right? So you have to basically make up 10% of your remaining schedule. That's not an insane number. The problem is the problem is that the Mets have a lot of teams to go over. You have the Cubs, who are a half game ahead. You have the Padres, who are a full game ahead. Then you have the Brewers and the Phillies, who are 7.5 games up. You have the Giants, who are 7 games up in the win column. And you have the Diamondbacks, who are 10 games up in that win column. And what is that? 9 in the loss column. Right? I mean, you have a long way to go. You really do. The Diamondbacks right now are 2.5 clear of the Giants for that second wild card. So the Mets would have to make up, what is that, 9 games in the loss column against the Diamondbacks. And they have to jump all those teams. So I'm thinking that this isn't going to happen. But I'm also thinking that since the Cohen press conference, this team has played like a team that was taken to its room and scolded by its parents, basically. So I think personally that maybe, just maybe, even if this year is too far gone, perhaps the team can find a way to kind of carry over its recent play and improve on it. I mean, 7-5 is not exactly exciting. Let's not overreact to it, but improve on it going forward and maybe finally figure out how to play as an appropriate team. So anyway, let's go ahead and take a break. We'll be right back. Question of the day is next. This is the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Coffee Lovers Middletown is now officially home to the home run of our favorite beverage, Days Coffee. Days' patented blend contains approximately 85% less caffeine than other coffees, which makes it better for you, yet unlike decaf coffee, still gives you that great pickup and tastes amazing. Formulated by a retired cancer pathologist, Dr. Grant Lee, Days Coffee is fermented with a patented enzyme that until now required a complex and thus expensive sourcing and production process. With Dr. Lee's formulation, this enzyme's great health benefits can now be brought to your cup quicker, easier, and cheaper than ever before. Here's how you get a hold of this game-changing cup of joe. Go over to radioonlydeals.com and get a $4 gift certificate to Days Coffee for just $2. That's radioonlydeals.com to buy your single-use digital gift certificate for Days Coffee. Radioonlydeals.com. That's radioonlydeals.com. Enjoy the preferred coffee of the Gary Ayd Show. Enjoy Days Coffee.
What's up, Cave Talk Radio fans? If you're looking for a great dinner and a tremendous atmosphere, look no further than Carter's Restaurant in Beacon, New York. It's a family-run restaurant, and as soon as you walk in the door, you will feel like part of their family, as they will be there to greet you and say goodbye as you leave. Make sure to try their Chicken Eugene. It's their specialty dish, originally created by Chef Eugene Greco, who taught the dish to the chefs at Carter's. Jonathan Lombardi, the chef of Carter's, is himself a CIA graduate, by the way. Carter's Restaurant is the go-to place for private events such as rehearsal dinners, cocktail parties, baby showers, and more. It's open every day except Wednesday, and the kitchen is open from 12 to 10 every day, but for Sunday, when it's open 11 to 8. The bar is open even later. Mention Cave Talk Radio and you get 20% off your bill with the exception of happy hour. Again, Cave Talk Radio for 20% off your bill at Carter's Restaurant in Beacon, where your family will join the family of Carter's.
Gen Z fans view football differently than their boomer counterparts. I am KO, back in 1 minute with your sports question of the day.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-648-9175. That's 800-648-9175.
A Morning Consults poll found 7 out of 10 NFL fans say players' sustained head injuries have no impact on their interest in football, leaving only 3 out of 10 to admit head injuries make them less interested in the sport. Gen Zers were described as being most negatively impacted, with 38% reporting head injuries made them less interested. 78% of boomers said head injuries had no influence on their interest in the game. A majority of fans, regardless of age, reported believing football is the most dangerous sport. Question: do you think Gen Zers are genuinely concerned about TBIs, or do you think they're virtue signaling?
It's probably a mix of a couple of things. One thing that I believe to be true is that you're far more likely to have TBIs, traumatic brain injuries, at higher levels of competition after years, and in most cases, if you make the NFL and have a decent career, decades of continual collisions. Because one of the things that's required for a TBI is the right force, the right velocity of force, which, in my opinion, is largely unattainable at lower levels. So, until you get to like really high school, I think you're unlikely to be in a position where you can suffer that. That's my opinion. I think that it's much more likely as a professional or a high collegiate player. So I think that for the overwhelming majority of people that play football, I'm talking like 99% of the people that play football, it's probably not as big of a risk as it's been portrayed. But to say someone's virtue signaling in some way means they are not really believing what they're saying. They're just saying what they think makes them look good. That's basically what virtue signaling means. And because of the litigious, highly discussed, and controversial nature with which Gen Z has been brought up as it pertains to football, it's not surprising to me that they would be more apt to feel that way statistically, and genuinely so. So I don't think it's a pure virtue signal because, frankly, if we give any credence to the environment in which we are raised as affecting our outlook on the world, which I think everyone gives some validity to that, and in many cases, a lot of validity, how do you then turn around and justify saying that because they were grown in that environment, they grew up in that environment, that doesn't have any impact? Of course it does. So I think that it's not a straight virtue signal. I really don't. I think there's a lot of belief in that, but I think it's the type of belief that's probably slightly misplaced, because unless you're playing at the highest level or close to it, I don't think there's enough force to create those type of injuries that we're talking about. And then you get to the highest level. And now with NIL, and of course of always with the salaries in the NFL. At a certain point, even if you believe, and there's plenty of evidence to suggest you are increasing your risk of a TBI playing football. I don't think in any disputing that. But at some point, you're going to say, well, what's the risk reward? It's a lot to say. Like, if I'm a great player and I'm expecting 20, $30 million, I think it's hard then to turn that down. I really do. And say, no, I'll pass it up. Some people might. Chris Borland, a great Niner safety for a couple of years, did just that. And I give him a lot of credit for that. But I think that's going to be the exception, not the rule. I would be very surprised if a lot of people did that. I really would. That's a lot of money that turned down. At some point, you're going to get to that level if you're one of those few lucky ones who are good enough, and you're going to have to make that decision. And I think ultimately, the prospects for being set for life and having generational wealth, if you're good enough to attain it, is going to be too much to pass up for most people. That's just my opinion. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll do more. We got a lot more to get to, some basketball, some baseball, the rest of the way. This is the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Are you like me? You have health insurance, but you don't have dental insurance. Do you need to get to the dentist right away? Maybe you need an implant or some other major service. Well, I found a dental insurance plan that's just right for you. It's called Spirit Dental. Spirit Dental offers a $100 lifetime deductible, a huge network of dentists. And here's the best part. There's no waiting periods. Yeah, that means you can call right now and have real dental insurance for you and your family tomorrow and get that immediate coverage you want. Spirit Dental has plans for just a few dollars a day, up to $5,000 annual maximum, and coverage for implants. Whatever age you are, the dental insurance you need is a free phone call away. Now don't wait, and be sure to ask about Spirit's vision plan. Here's the number: 800-631-9229. 800-631-9229. That's 800-631-9229.
Hey friend, life happens and you need money. What do? You call the special toll-free number we're about to give you. We will send you a link to your phone with details on how you can loan up to $5,000. Couldn't you use $5,000 to pay for your rent, pay grocery bills, get your car repaired, or whatever you need? It's up to you. We don't care. We're just here to lend you the money. And we'll lend people money with good, bad, or no credit at all. Of course, some terms and conditions apply, and you'll see those on the link we're going to send you. So if you need up to $5,000 maybe as soon as the next business day, call this number right now. We will text you a free link with details.
Paid for by Money Mutual. Call 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. That's 800-586-7112.
All righty, we're back here on the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave. It's great to have you aboard. Gary Ayd with you. And now the next topic, assessing the aftermath of the ESPN layoffs, in particular, the firing of Jeff Van Gundy. Now, this one, without a doubt, for me, hit home. Him, Breen, and Jackson were, to me, the equivalent of the broadcast play-by-play equivalent of like the Beatles. You just simply can't recreate it. It can't be done with a substitute. It was those three and that three only that produced that type of magic. And it's just not going to be anywhere close to the same. It can't be. No matter who they hire, if they don't hire anyone, let's just say they go with a two-man booth of Breen and Jackson, it's still not going to be the same. So I think that was a total miscue by ESPN, unless, as has been opined, fairly virally, I might add, by the legendary talk show host Christopher Russo, aka Mad Dog, that this was a decision made by the NBA, that it strong-armed ESPN with the broadcast rights coming up, saying, hey, if you want to keep the rights, you got to get rid of this guy. You know, Van Gundy is known to be somewhat critical of the league, particularly officials, always talking about changing rules and stuff like that. And the league said, no, we want a pom-pom guy. We want a cheerleader. This is the opine forwarded by Chris Russo. And while there's no question, this is a great example of why he's such a legendary and successful talk show host. This is a juicy topic. I have a hard time believing it. I really do. I'm of the opinion that these leagues are far less conspiratorial and manipulative than a lot of people like to make them out to be. And the reason people like to make them out to be is it's fun to wonder about what goes on behind closed doors, what goes on at the levers of power, secret societies, the Illuminati, right? Like it's that type of thing. UFOs, Sasquatch, Nessie, all that stuff. It all pulls at the same broad part of our brain that is attracted to things we can't see or really prove exist, but we want to think that they do for some type of reason of validating our own suspicions or emancipating us of responsibility or any other number of reasons. Now, I'm certainly not suggesting that the NBA having a potential role in Jeff Van Gundy's ouster is in any way as unlikely as Bigfoot. But I am saying that the part of the brain that is enticed by the possibility of a Bigfoot or a Megalodon or something like that is the same part of the brain that is enticed by all form of conspiracy theories and wonder of behind the scenes jockeying. And I do think this falls into that category. Could the NBA have done this? Perhaps, maybe. But is it far more likely that ESPN thought to itself, I don't know what they were paying Van Gundy and or Jackson and Breen, but it's a commonly held belief, one in which I personally normally share. I'll preface this statement by saying this trio was an exception to what I'm about to say, but it's a commonly held belief within broadcast management, one in which I share, that in a play-by-play booth, in a game broadcast booth, 3 is a crowd. And if you are in cost-cutting mode, correction mode, as Disney, ESPN's parent company, so clearly is, and there is even if it's not the majority element, even if it's a significant element of your decision makers that believe on some level 3's a crowd in a play-by-play booth, and I have no reason to think that that's not the case, just based on my general knowledge of the views of many in the broadcast business from being in this business so long. You think that I do. I personally believe that a big part of the motivation was that we don't want to do this, but Van Gundy was probably making more than Jackson. And they said, well, we have to cut X amount of salary. He has a big chunk. We don't need 3. 2 will work. Let's cut there. Do I think that's a more plausible and less nefarious, although infinitely less sexy reason for his ouster? I do. I don't think the NBA is so vain and so thin-skinned and so adverse to any level of criticism that they would strong-arm their way out of the most successful on-air presentation of their product in their league's history. I don't think the league's going to do that. Adam Silver has shown a willingness, unlike a lot of other commissioners, he has shown a willingness throughout his career since he took over for David Stern about 10 years ago to allow for freedom of expression, even if it goes against league business interests or causes a riff at the time or goes against his private views. Look at the Daryl Morey situation. It's a perfect example. He defended Morey, who, of course, had the famous tweet, "Let freedom ring," during the Hong Kong protests, and everyone blew up about it. China was going to cut him out because, China, that's what China does. It's the NBA's big money. And then the political right was all over Adam Silver because he didn't initially come to an unequivocal defense. He eventually got there, at least as it relates to Morey's right to express himself and to assure that he would not be punished and ostracized from working the league for expressing his personal views. And Morey is now, of course, the president of the 76ers. That's 6 years hence or 5 years hence at this point. So my point is, a leader who is going to publicly do that, I don't think is capable or is likely to, behind closed doors, silence comparatively less damaging to league earnings speech by a broadcaster who is almost universally beloved and has been an absolute staple of broadcast coverage of his league at the highest level for a decade and a half, I think, or probably like 12, 13 years. It's been a long time, like 2009, 10, 12, somewhere around there. I'd have to look up the exact year. It's been a decade plus, I'm sure. And furthermore, to that point, there's been, I believe in that span, I'd have to look this up too, but I'm going to say at least 2 and maybe 3 collective bargaining agreements that have come up. Now, it's true that there's more variety of competition today. That is true because of, the coming of age of the streaming services. But even still, you had NBC, you had CBS, you had other networks that if you really were mad at ESPN, you could have brokered this too. So my point is this: if this was going to be, if the approach of Van Gundy's style, which hasn't really changed much over the years, was going to be a sticking point for continuing to work with ESPN and give them the rights, don't you think he would have pulled this move in one of those other negotiating periods with a previous CBA? Not CBA, a previous broadcast rights agreement over this time? I certainly do. So I just don't believe that argument. I think this was a cold, calculated, accountant-led, spreadsheet-based business decision. I don't think this had anything to do with the league. No one strong-armed anyone. There's not back office politics. There's not a hidden agenda. There's not a conspiracy theory. This was straight financial business and nothing else. That's what I believe. Now, could I be wrong? Yeah, sure, I could be wrong. But so could Chris Russo, right? Like, there's no way either one of us can prove either thing conclusively, probably. And there's no reason to. The bottom line is he's gone. And the unfortunate bottom line is, for basketball fans like myself, NBA fans like myself, losing him sucks. It just sucks. The guy was great at his job. He really was. I loved watching him play. I mean, broadcast. He was a good coach, solid coach, but he was not a legendary coach. This guy, to me, is the definition, in my opinion, of a legendary color commentator. And more to the point, the combination of him, Breen, and Jackson is completely and totally unreplicable as far as I'm concerned. You'd almost be better going in a whole different direction. Like, let Jackson go coach somewhere and bring someone else. I don't think you get rid of Mike Breen, but you almost be better off going in a whole different direction, because in my opinion, it's going to sound and ring hollow with just Jackson there alongside Mike Breen. And if you bring in someone else, as has been opined, I guess that would indicate that at the very least, they wanted to reduce the operating cost of that triumvirate versus maybe cutting it to 2 altogether. I guess it would half disprove my theory if, let's say, they hired Doris Burke, as has been potentially discussed, but you will never know this probably, but I would imagine it would be at a greatly reduced salary from what Van Gundy was earning, which would then be used to justify the cost-saving measure. Let's just say, I'm just going to make up a number. Let's say Jeff Van Gundy was making $12 million and they hired Doris Burke at $5 million. Well, people will say, oh, sexism, blah, 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 glass ceiling. No. Okay, let's put Doc Rivers in there. Maybe he makes 5 or 6. Okay, it's not anything but a business decision. This I'll tell you. There's no way, whatever Van Gundy was making, if they do hire a replacement and continue with the 3-man booth, they will not be making anywhere close to what he was making. That I'll tell you for absolute certainty. I think it's still possible that they go 3-man. I think it's still possible that they just stick with 2. But it's going to be different and hollow and much less enjoyable either way. And I hope that they at least do some kind of tribute to them because that group earned it. They really did. I often said if we can combine that game crew with the studio crew of TNT, you'd have the ultimate broadcast package that I've ever seen in my lifetime. The only one that's better than either of those, in my opinion, was the NBC crew from the early mid 2000s through about 5-6 years ago when you had Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, Bob Costas, Dan Patrick, Rodney Harrison, Tony Dungy. That crew was legendary. I think Susie Colbert or Andrea Kramer at various times. That crew was awesome. That was the best broadcast team I've ever seen in my life in any sport. This Breen, Jackson, and Van Gundy trio is a close second. And if the ESPN studio shows weren't such dog crap, it might have surpassed it. But those studio shows dragged down the overall grade just enough to allow the NBC crew to maintain the top spot. But they're a close second. They really are. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap things up with some news you can use. This is the Gary Ayd Show coming back next here on The Cave.
Coffee lovers, Middletown is now officially home to the home run of our favorite beverage, Days Coffee. Days patented blend contains approximately 85% less caffeine than other coffees, which makes it better for you, yet unlike decaf coffee, still gives you that great pickup and tastes amazing. Formulated by a retired cancer pathologist, Dr. Grant Lee, Days Coffee is fermented with a patented enzyme that until now required a complex and thus expensive sourcing and production process. With Dr. Lee's formulation, this enzyme's great health benefits can now be brought to your cup quicker, easier, and cheaper than ever before. Here's how you get a hold of this game-changing cup of joe. Go over to radioonlydeals.com and get a $4 gift certificate to Days Coffee for just $2. That's radioonlydeals.com to buy your single-use digital gift certificate for Days Coffee. Radioonlydeals.com. That's radioonlydeals.com. Enjoy the preferred coffee of the Gary Ayd Show. Enjoy Days Coffee.
What's up, Cave Talk Radio fans? If you're looking for a great dinner and a tremendous atmosphere, look no further than Carter's Restaurant in Beacon, New York. It's a family-run restaurant, and as soon as you walk in the door, you will feel like part of their family as they will be there to greet you and say goodbye as you leave. Make sure to try their Chicken Eugene. It's their specialty dish, originally created by Chef Eugene Greco, who taught the dish to the chefs at Carter's. Jonathan Lombardi, the chef of Carter's, is himself a CIA graduate, by the way. Carter's Restaurant is the go-to place for private events such as rehearsal dinners, cocktail parties, baby showers, and more. It's open every day except Wednesday, and the kitchen is open from 12 to 10 every day, but for Sunday, when it's open 11 to 8. The bar is open even later. Mention Cave Talk Radio and you get 20% off your bill with the exception of happy hour. Again, Cave Talk Radio for 20% off your bill at Carter's Restaurant in Beacon, where your family will join the family of Carter's. All right, there we go. By the way, I went there to Carter's last week with my wife, and I did not have the Chicken Eugene. I thought I should have. It crossed my mind. But they had a special I couldn't resist. In fact, I wasn't allowed to resist it. The owner of Carter's, Jonathan, wouldn't allow me to resist it, which was a prime rib prime rib special that they had that night. It was absolutely fantastic. My wife had the lobster raviolis. They were really good. And what else did we had these fish tacos, these catfish tacos that were just sensational. Just a tremendous, tremendous place. It really is. Nice and comfortable. Really, really nice. Definitely check it out. Use that code Cave Talk Radio for that 20% off. Really just was delicious. I really have to say it was fantastic. All right. So now, as far as the last 15 or so minutes of the show, what do we have from here? Well, we started doing on our Facebook page, Cave Talk Radio NY on Facebook, where over 1,000 of you follow us. Thank you very much. We started doing a start bench cut, and that's going to be a series over the next several days, I believe. And the one that's up there right now is a Yankee-based one, and it got a lot of comments. It is Aaron Judge, Derek Jeter and Alex Rodriguez. Start, bench, cut. Now, we basically had almost every combination that's possible. We had a lot of comments here, about 20 comments altogether. A lot of discontent. It's a lot of fun. So, I'll give you mine. I start A-Rod, bench Aaron Judge, and cut Derek Jeter. Whoa, you cut Derek Jeter. Well, let's be real about it. Baseball, everyone says, is the ultimate team sport. That's a misrepresentation. It's really more the ultimate collaboration sport. There's very little actual teamwork. The only time this teamwork is really during an infield play or a defensive play. And I guess between the pitcher and the catcher. But basically, it's a series of one-on-ones, batter versus pitcher, right? And then when you're making the play, let's say there's a ground ball to the shortstop or hard hit ground ball, no one's working with you to get that. That's an individual play to glove that and make that throw. Now, on the other end, the guy has to catch it. That's another individual play. So I guess you can consider that as teamwork. But it's certainly collaboration, right? And one of Jeter's principal reasons that people, in my opinion, grossly overrate him is because he's a winner, right? He won and won and won. He's Mr. Clutch, Mr. November, blah, blah, blah. Or maybe he won because he was on a great team of which he contributed. I'm not going to diminish his accomplishments or his importance, but to think that he somehow willed his team to winning defies the general actual tenor of baseball. I don't know that I subscribe to this whole will to win theory in any sport, really, but it's certainly not applicable in a sport like baseball, where anyone who's ever played it will tell you there is absolutely such a thing, and it's easy to do, of trying too hard. If you will yourself too much, you're going to make mistakes. And there's too many pieces that have to go right too many times for a team to win, to ascribe a will to win of an individual player as the reason for his team's winning success and thus giving him credit for that success. I just can't follow that logic or that form of analysis. So for that reason, Derek Jeter, when you take that piece out of it, if you look at it purely objectively, and I'm going to turn the analytics on their head here, I'm going to turn them around, I should say. I'm usually disparaging them, and I still believe that. But, you know, what's good for the goose is good for the gander as far as an argument is concerned, right? People use these arguments against me all the time, so I'm going to use it for once. If you take analytics, Derek Jeter was a high batting average singles hitter. Oh, the humanity. That's terrible. He's got 3,000 something hits, but they're almost all singles, right? So according to their own logic, that is far less valuable than what A-Rod and Judge bring to the table, which of course is power numbers. Now, A-Rod to me is unquestionably, unassailably the best player of these three. It's not even close. As much as Judge had a historic year last year and is having a great year again this year, A-Rod was an ace defender, should have been the Yankee shortstop. But Jeter, again, got in the way. Was a great base stealer in his younger days. Had a pretty high batting average, hit for an insane amount of power, drove in runs all over the place, and played at a high level for a very long time, and was generally durable for a lot of his career until the last few years. Aaron Judge is on a good path. And in my opinion, he's clearly, unquestionably, the second best player on this list. See, to me, there's only one way to do this list. I didn't really think or debate this at all. I really didn't. The longevity of Jeter by comparison to Judge was certainly something that crossed my mind, but I decided not to factor that in because obviously Judge is still playing. He just, you know, he's younger. He came along later. So that's all there is to it. So I'm not going to hold that against him. So Jeter and A-Rod have complete careers. They both played a long time, about the same number of years. Maybe A-Rod played another year or two longer than Jeter did, but basically they played about the same number of years. And they were more or less contemporaries. A-Rod was better by a lot. A lot. Anyone that takes Jeter over A-Rod is absolutely lying to themselves and letting their emotion determine their selection. By any conceivable measure, A-Rod was a vastly better baseball player than Derek Jeter. You'll never convince me that if Jeter was on the Seattle Mariners and the Texas Rangers and A-Rod was on the same Yankee team that Jeter enjoyed playing for, that A-Rod wouldn't have all the stats he had, plus all the championship success Jeter enjoyed. And that you brought Jeter over later and he would have the 2009 title. You'll never convince me otherwise. Baseball doesn't work that way, folks. One guy can't do it. Look at Barry Bonds. Look at Shohei Ohtani. There's your guy. And he pitches and hits. And he still can't make this team go at a super high level. Right? So what are we talking about? In baseball, you have to use individual statistics as the basis for individual greatness. You just have to. There's really almost no other way to do it in the sport of baseball. And I mentioned Shohei Ohtani. Where's his team? A game under 500. Right? Buried in the wild card standings. They're 5 games back of Baltimore. I'm sorry, 5 games back of Toronto for the second wild card spot. Baltimore's 5 up on Toronto for the first spot. It's just, to me, it's crazy. I can't imagine another way of ranking these 3. Now, other people did. Okay, so what did other people come up with? Well, we probably saw about every combination under the sun. So let's see some of the other ones. Notoriety Sports says A-Rod, bench Jeter, and cut Judge. Trey Michael Riggs agrees with our order. A-Rod, bench Judge, cut Jeter. Playmakers starts Jeter. What? Benches A-Rod and cuts Judge. Guys, I love you, but you're crazy. No way. The guys huddle starts Judge, benches A-Rod, and cuts Jeter. Now, I will say, if I was going to do another order, that would be it. Like I said, to me, A-Rod's clearly the best player of these 3. I would start A-Rod. But it's also clear to me that Aaron Judge is definitely the second best player. So I think that's backwards. But if I had to do a different order, that would be the order I would use. Judge starting, A-Rod benched, and cut Jeter. Jeter just doesn't make the cut, no pun intended here. He's just not as good as the other 2 guys. It's really that simple. The sports judge starts Aaron Judge, benches Jeter, and cuts A-Rod, or he said A-Roids. Oh, good grief. Please. I don't even want to start with that. We're going to talk the steroid things, really? All right, sure. K. Williams starts Jeter, benches Judge, and cuts A-Rod. EJ Makowick. He likes the segment. He thinks we should do more of it. He didn't really give an order, but that's cool. I appreciate that. So we're going to continue to do that. Carlos Reyes starts Judge, benches A-Rod, and cuts Jeter. So it seems that we have pretty even distribution here among the 3 styles, which means it's a good question. So good job, Dylan, coming up with this one. We're going to come up with more of these and debate them here on the show. I personally, to wrap it up, like I said, would start A-Rod, cut Judge, and start A-Rod, bench Judge, and cut Derek Jeter. So, by the way, one other thing. The San Antonio Spurs have allegedly shut down Victor Wembanyama for the rest of Summer League. So he played games, and we're shutting him down. Why? Like, Wembanyama had a terrible game 1, had a great game 2. Um, like, why are they doing that? Um, I just like this is show business. At some point, um, you have to allow for the fact that this is what people want to see. Um, but no real reason given. Um, but he's just not going to play anymore. That really stinks. Um, the one thing you like, he did say, he said, the past month, I don't think basketball was even 50% of my schedule, and I can't stand it. I know it's a special moment in my life, but I'm just glad it's over. Honestly, I just want to hoop, work out, and lift. That's a great. If that's true, and there's no reason for me to doubt his word, I'm going to take him at his word. That's amazing. How San Antonio gets another talent like this inside about 20 years, I guess close to the 30 years, is crazy. They got Tim Duncan in 97, and now whatever, 26 years later, they get Victor Wembanyama. Doesn't seem fair, folks. Doesn't seem fair. Good stuff today. Again, solo the rest of the week for the foreseeable future anyway. We will be back tomorrow for the 5. As we wrap things up, remember there's the home run derby tonight, which should be a lot of fun. I'm going to try to watch a little bit of it. They've changed it so many times over my life. I always forget kind of how it's being played at any given time, to be perfectly honest. But we'll see what we can find out about that. And we'll go ahead and we'll enjoy it for what it is. Let's just enjoy it for what it is. Pete Alonso's in it, so that's always exciting. Obviously, he's my favorite player. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. And he's a great home run derby candidate. So last year, this is interesting. This is according to Austin Karp on Twitter. He asked the question, is this the first year that the home run derby outdraws the game in viewership? The margin was only around 630,000 viewers last year. Which event do you think will draw the higher audience? This is really interesting. I hadn't thought about that or even known that it was that close, to be honest with you. I think I'll know this. I'll answer it this way. I'm personally more interested in the home run derby than the game, which of course the game's tomorrow. Play resumes on Friday. So I'm more likely to watch the home run derby than the game. Does that mean that I'm going to represent the answer to that question? Of course, not necessarily. But if I'm any indication, I'm going to watch some of the derby. I probably won't watch much of the game, if any of it at all. That's interesting to think about. So of course this is happening in Seattle at T-Mobile Park. 8 sluggers are participating in it. Pete Alonso, I mentioned, is one of them. Luis Alonso, no relation of the Chicago White Sox. Vlad Guerrero Jr. of the Blue Jays. Adolis Garcia of the Rangers. Mookie Betts of the Dodgers. And Adley Rauschman of the Orioles. Randy Arozarena of Tampa Bay. Julio Rodriguez of the hometown Mariners. That is your field. Should be a lot of fun. Alonso is already a 2-time champion. Robert is entering as the number 1 seed this year around. So we'll see how that goes. It's going to be a lot of fun. I guess that's Rodriguez they probably meant to say. But in any event, there's a typo on CBS. But the 2013-23 Home Run Derby will begin at 8 o'clock tonight, and Caesar Sportsbook has Alonso at plus 300. He's the favorite. And Vlad Guerrero was right behind him at plus 450. Julio Rodriguez is plus 550. Adolis Garcia plus 600. So there you have it. Should be a lot of fun. we're gonna see how this plays out. I personally think Pete Alonso has the best chance of winning. I really do. I think he's just so perfectly built for this competition. He doesn't have to change his swing or approach hardly at all. So it should be a lot of fun. We'll see how it plays out. So enjoy it tonight. We will be back tomorrow, like we said. This has been the Gary Ayd Show. We'll see you then here on The Cave.
Coffee Lovers Middletown is now officially home to the home run of our favorite beverage, Days Coffee. Days patented blend contains approximately 85% less caffeine than other coffees, which makes it better for you, yet unlike decaf coffee, still gives you that great pickup and tastes amazing.